Hello. Hey y'all. Big Tex here. It is the last day of March 2016, and I realized I hadn't made a GoPro review video for all the stuff that I took on my brother and I's Thru-Hike of the PCT last year. So my brother and I started on June 28th up at Hart's Pass, went up to the border of Canada, turned around, came back down all the way to Mexico. So we southbounded it, in case you were curious or don't know how to listen to directions. So the gear stuff that I'm going to be talking about is a little different for southbounders than it is for northbounders, but I think some of the stuff is pretty good across the board and applicable no matter who you are. And it's a great way to waste time if you just want to spend however long watching these videos on YouTube or whatever. Anyway, so without further ado, I suppose we'll get started. All this stuff was either sent to me or we started with on the trail and ended up sending back for whatever reason. And it was all in my backpack. So before we go into that, though, I will say I did buy a duffel bag to fly with my backpack. Some people just like do the heavy-duty saran wrap around it so all your straps don't get caught in TSA conveyor belts and stuff like that. I just bought a duffel bag and was lucky enough to have my uncle, who picked us up from the airport in Seattle. He mailed this back home, and then I was able, when we met some people who gave us a lift to the airport in San Diego, shout out to Dave, thanks. They received this from our folks, and we were able to fly back with our packs in this. So definitely get something to fly with your pack if that's how you're going to be getting there. It's a lot easier than trying to convince the TSA agents that, no, my 50-liter pack is indeed a carry-on, because I'm not an attractive young woman, so they're not going to listen to me and say, nope, you got to check it. So anyway, that's that. So with respect to what went in that, backpack wise, so I used the Osprey Exos 58. I took off the brain of the pack. It was honestly just serving as a catch-all for other crap I didn't need and ended up sending back. I also took extra strappage off the pack. It had a lot of straps running around the bottom and sides that I didn't end up using, just to kind of shave some weight. But it's a great pack. I'll probably do a more in-depth review of my specific systems later on, but it was awesome. It has a lot more volume than you'd think it would, and that helped when we had to put the bear canister in it. We didn't run into any issues with that. I really like this pack. A deer kind of went at it while we were sleeping for the salt, so it was licky. It literally like chewed a buckle off of this, but everything worked out well. The only thing I will say, I guess, while we're here, is that I don't know if it's easy to see, but these two guys, here and here, the shoulder straps used to connect through them back here. And you can see it started wearing through the strap right there, and before this one eventually cut. And then I cut this one, or vice versa, I don't know. One of them broke before I noticed, and I was having an awkward time like adjusting my straps, and it wasn't fitting right, and I couldn't figure it out. And then one night I saw that my straps had started to fray, and I was like, what in the hell is going on? So I saw this, and I ended up cutting it, and it still worked out fine. It connects it down to the bottom here, but I don't really know what these are for, but all they did was start to fray my straps. So I guess if you get this, maybe just pre-cut these. I don't really know, but I didn't have any issues once I found that and fixed it. The pockets were a little small, to be honest, on the hips, but it was just enough for like a Cliff Bar or like the Energy shop blocks or something like that, so I guess I can't complain too much about that. Inside my pack I had a 2mm trash compactor bag liner, so I didn't screw around with a pack cover or anything like that. I just had this guy down in my pack, that way everything stayed dry. There were one or two times where it got a hole and I didn't notice it, and I got a little dampness on my sleeping bag, but it wasn't a huge deal. Just make sure you get a new one of the. If you do use a liner instead of a pack cover, which I definitely recommend, just make sure you get a new one every X amount of miles or whatever. I don't know, your mileage may vary, so it depends on how you treat it. But yeah, definitely get a trash compactor bag though. Some of them are more crinkly too, if you get a different brand, but they're thicker. They're thicker than normal trash bags, so they won't poke holes or get scraped up or anything as easily, so that was good. Like I said, we started in Washington, so we actually started with an inflatable pad because we didn't have to worry about stuff poking us or popping the pad, and we wanted a little bit more comfort. So as you can see, there's an issue with this guy, and unfortunately it was about a week between when this occurred and when I got this. So I was sleeping on this awkward monstrosity for about a week, halfway underinflated. Basically what's happened is these baffles here have delaminated, here, here, and here, and have caused these giant Franken baffles, and yeah, not the most comfortable thing to sleep on, surprisingly. So if you do go with an air mattress, maybe try to stay away from one with the vertical style baffles, and maybe get something like the Sea to Summit. The Sea to Summit has some new pads that are spot welded together, and there are a lot more of them, so it's not, you don't have as much pressure on this seam or this seam. You know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 seams distributing that pressure, versus on those little guys, it's like it looks similar to this, but it's air in it, and it's, you know, a bunch of them, so it distributes weight. So that kind of sucked after the baffling delaminated, but before, I mean, it was great. It worked out well. It doesn't take that long to inflate, and it's pretty much as heavy as the Z-Lights. So I'll be throwing this guy away though. Sadness. Or using it as an awkward pool. I might figure out something to do with it. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, so in Northern California, my brother and I switched to the Z-Light soles. This is pretty much what everybody takes. I don't really know if there's a better closed cell foam option. The Ridge Rest is another version, but it's round and it doesn't pack up nearly as well. So I mean, I don't think there's any other decent options. But I saw people who had this and also had the Z-Light sit pad, which is basically this much of it cut out and a few folds. I have no idea why you would do that. If you're gonna use this, don't get a sit pad. Just have this easily accessible on the outside of your pad of your backpack. Do that. Boom. Look at that. Nice cushiony. It's a sit pad. Why would you? I don't understand why you carry another one. Plus you can lean it out, lean it up against like a concrete pylon if you're underneath a bridge. Good stuff. A lot of people will use the 3/4 length. I'm just under 6'6", so I had a full length, which still wasn't really a full length. But I also, if we were on like really crappy ground, I would double up the layers. So, if I can show you. Yeah, so each of these have 3 layers of foam now, and it's pretty much shoulder to hip, torso length. So that worked out really well when the ground was super hard or uneven and uncomfortable when we were using these. But yeah, they worked out well. They will crunch down over time. You can see where most of my body weight is a lot skinnier, and on the ends it's kind of splayed out just because there wasn't as much weight compressing here. But over time this foam just crunches, and it won't open back up. But I did like it for what it is. It's all right. It's not super comfortable, especially if you're a side sleeper, but it is what it is. I use the men's REI Flash sleeping bag. I didn't take it in this cotton bag, obviously, but it was a great bag. I really liked it. It's 29 degrees, so I was pretty good for the entire trip. I never had any period where I was like, oh, I'm way too cold inside my sleeping bag, because I would either have base layers or something like that on. There were definitely a few times where it was too warm, so I just had to use it as like a quilt or something like that, which is fine. I mean, that's just how it goes. But it's kind of, the Flash is kind of unique. It is, the top of it is down. So everything in here is down, and the bottom of it down here is a synthetic fill. So you get the weight and compressibility factor of the down, but on the bottom, where you're more likely to get moisture condensation from the ground or over compressed stuff from you sleeping on it, it has synthetic, so you don't develop cold spots or anything like that, which is pretty cool. We did wash our bags halfway through in South Lake Tahoe, or roughly halfway through in South Lake Tahoe. If you have a down bag, you need to wash it at some point, because all of your sweat and oil and everything else that you're putting into your sleeping area is going to cause the down to lose its loft, and that is going to cause you to be cold at night. So definitely wash your bag at least once, and give yourself some time to let it fluff up and declump all the little down clusters. Yeah. So Mason and I both we split up the Copper Spur 2. It's an awesome tent. It's one of the better lightweight tents that offer you maximum livability. So it has a lot of interior room. We could pretty much sit straight up in the tent, which is important for me because I'm so gigantic. And Mason, I mean, he's not a small guy. He's 6'2", 6'3", and we were both in this. I mean, we were catching elbows every now and then, but it wasn't bad at all. And once we split it up with like tent and rainfly and like poles and footprint, it ended up being roughly 50-50 at about just over a pound a person, I think. So it worked out really well. The big Agnes tents are cool. If you get the footprint, you can put the footprint down, put the poles in the grommet and the rainfly over the poles and have a quick sun shelter. So sometimes we did that if it was just like nice outside, but we still wanted some coverage. We didn't want to necessarily cowboy camp for whatever reason, or just in the middle of the desert where we were taking a water break and there's no shade, so you can put that guy up real quick and have a nice sunshade. Really, really cool. Don't feel like you have to keep it in this too if you're backpacking by yourself with a tent. This bag means nothing. Take the poles out, put the poles on the side, put your tent body in like a compression bag if you want to, or just stuff it in at the top. Don't feel limited to have to pack this awkward big package. You can split it up to however you want. A lot of people think they have to put it in the bag it comes in. Yeah, so that's kind of the big three. Moving right along, we have the Black Diamond Z poles. I didn't want to spend money on the carbon poles, so I just got the normal ones, and they honestly worked out fine. I started with the Black Diamond Trailback poles. They're rubber handle, they're red and black with clip locks. They worked out well, but I was walking along, where was I? I guess just north of Bernie Falls State Park, and I put pressure on my right one, and all of a sudden it just went shonk and sheared off above the clip lock. So I don't know if I was putting too much pressure on it or if I just caught it at the right thing or what, but that was kind of a bummer. But I did get these guys in South Lake Tahoe, so that worked out well. And yeah, they are awesome. I definitely recommend trekking poles. I used to not use them, like in scouts and everything, and I was real hesitant about using them for the trail, but they're just so worth it. They keep you from falling, they help you on the uphills, they save your knees on the downhills, and they just give you that extra sense of security on the tricky traverses. So definitely worth it for sure. Food-wise, we started out with OpSacs lining our food bag, and that just didn't work. It constricted how we packed our food. It was a pain in the ass. If you get food on the outside of it, mice will still like try and chew on it and that kind of stuff, even if they're not smelling whatever's inside. So we ended up, Mason actually had a mouse eat through his OpSac, and then I just sent mine home because I was tired of messing with it. So we sent those guys home pretty quick. We did use the Cuban Fiber Z-Packs food bag, and I got their Z-Line just for kicks. The Z-Line was good. It was lightweight, but it kind of snagged on itself. Like it kind of got twisted up really easily. I don't know if there's a better lightweight line option, but it worked okay. And then the bag itself worked great. I mean, this was the same bag I had the whole trip. It got snags and torn in a couple places, but we just fixed that with gear tape, and that worked out well. So, yeah, nothing much more to say about that guy. The bear canister is a necessary evil you have to take through pretty much Kennedy Meadows to Sonora Pass. We picked ours up utilizing Sonora Pass resupply. Casey's an awesome guy. He's super nice, and he's not shy about, letting you know he's there to make money, so he'll definitely sell you whatever you need. But having that ability to pick this up at Sonora Pass instead of having to jumping into anywhere was really cool. So if you're going southbound, I definitely recommend it. It was a nice feature, or a nice convenient thing for us. I think it cost like $50 or something like that. I forget, but yeah. Then we carried these through till, well, we actually jumped out of the Sierra at Lone Pine, sent these back in Lone Pine, and then hiked out of the necessary bear canister area before we had to pitch tents. So yeah, it worked out well. It sucks because it's like 2.5 pounds of plastic that you just can't, it constricts your food capabilities too. So going southbound, you're more severely limited with where you can get food in the High Sierra. So it kind of sucked that we couldn't pack out more than this, really, at least legally, I suppose. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Yeah. So then electronics. So I had 3 big things that were needed to be charged. So I carried my GoPro, the Hero 3 Plus, which worked really well, my cell phone, which was in battery saving mode most of the time. We used it half miles, and Guthooks apps. I'll probably go into more about that in a later review thing about electronics and stuff, but definitely good. Got a text message. So there's that guy. And then the Fitbit. So the Fitbit, I mean, basically didn't take much battery. I had to charge it maybe once every week or so. But it was still there. It was cool to see, kind of compare mileage for what it was we did and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I charged all these guys with the Anker 10,000 milliamp hour battery. It's got 2 USB ports on it, which was nice if I wanted to charge my phone and GoPro or whatever at the same time. Yeah, it takes a while to charge up. So it is